I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write a story.
All right, hey everybody, how you doing? Gary Wise here once again, coming out of Ocala, Florida. Your Ocala leadership mentor, working on the little. We're thinking about setting up a whole podcast thing. I'm not quite sure yet. Still wearing my work clothes. You know, this is Thursday's attire. On Thursdays we do PT with the cadets, so it's physical training for those of you that don't know. And so, me and my fellow instructors, we get the chance to be outside all day, pretty much, and be out there with these kids, watching them work out. Like they get it in. They are definitely physically fit, or they try to be, it's very exciting to see them do it. Hey, I'm excited to be here tonight because today I get to talk about one of my favorite things. Of course, it's leadership, right? But today we're going to talk about the power of delegation. Man, there's no way you're a leader if you're not able to delegate. I'm sorry, you're a manager. I said it. If you are not able to delegate, then you are a manager. And there's nothing wrong with being a manager. There's nothing wrong with being a manager. But if you are trying to get to the space in your career or in your abilities where you want to lead people, where you know where that you want them to go, you got to start giving them opportunities to play. You got to give them opportunities to fail. And you do that by delegation, right? And so we're going to talk about this today. I'm going to give you some of my recommendations on ways to do this. And I tell this to you because, again, I'm delegating all day. I'm not a person who used to lead and now I don't lead and I just write books about leading. I'm not a person who's never led before, but I can Google some stuff and then I talk about it. My favorite are people that led like 15 years ago and then just want to talk about how they used to lead 15 years ago. I mean, I hear all that, but the reality is I'm leading people every day. I'm taking over 30 cadets just this Saturday to a competition to go to a state drill competition where 2.5 years ago we were losing every competition we ever entered. So I am leading, and my cadets are watching these videos as well as these adults that I'm trying to reach out to as well, because they're interested in how I'm not only giving the information that I have to give out, but I'm also talking about the things that we're doing in our program, and they're getting to see, I would say, supplementation to what we talk about in the classroom, which I think is awesome because this is what it's all about: sharing what we know, sharing with our community, and hoping to build stronger people. And I'll tell you, it's an exciting time right now to be an American, to be a person in the leadership space, because I believe our country is witnessing a leadership renaissance, honestly, like we have not seen in a long time. And if you're a leader, this is going to be an opportunity for you to step in and to capture opportunities and to make things happen. And if you are a person who is unfortunately just really good at managing certain situations, but afraid to kind of get into the thick of things, you might be uncomfortable right now. Okay, so work on your leadership. Work on your leadership and figure out the next move you're going to make. And again, we're going to talk about today delegation. You're not able to be a leader if you're not delegating. Why do we need to talk about delegation? Because a couple of things. Number one, we start to believe that we have to do it all ourselves. I had a conversation today with my mentors talking about how, I have this flawed belief that I can do it all. And I talk to my students, say, hey, look, you can do anything you want. You just can't do everything. There's got to be priorities. There's got to be resource management. There's got to be time and balance and all these things. So, if you're a person who, you're worried you're going to micromanage, you're worried you're going to macromanage, hell, you might be managing. Like, you get my point. You have to learn how to take a breath and how to trust in the people that you work with, how to trust in the teammates who are working around you, who want opportunities to show you what they can do. That's whether you're a leader or a manager, doesn't really matter. If you've got people working around you who want to show you what they can do, and they value your opinion and they value your recognition, you're on the cusp of becoming a phenomenal leader. you just gotta let it happen. You just gotta throw out those opportunities, throw that red meat out there to them, and let them go out there and be awesome, right? The other thing you have to worry about is I've seen so many leaders burn themselves out, me included. I've been there in those times where I knew I had too much on my plate and I had to load shed things. I had to let things go that were not, filling my cup. One of the things I worked on as a command master chief was I wanted to make sure my chiefs were not burning out to the best of my ability, even when they would get mad at me. And I would tell them, brother, sister, I need you to take a break. I need you to let somebody else have an opportunity. You're not going to lose any of the ground you've gained, because we all, everybody has goals. Everybody has ideas of where they're going to go. But I need you to strategically take a knee, so that way when I need you to get back up on that horse and ride, you're ready, right? And trust in the organization, trust in the mess, trust in the team, trust in everybody that's here, that we're going to support you and that we all understand why you're not always the person that gets the job. And you have to be careful, because there's perceptions of favoritism, of always the same people get the opportunity. There's perceptions of a lack of trust if you're not willing to give people opportunities. Like, all these things can really hurt your organization. And so learning to delegate is a big game changer. Um, Here's the other thing: leaders, managers, whoever I'm talking to on the other end of this computer, delegation is not about offloading your work, right? I'm a big believer in that people need to understand that we all have jobs to do, right? And my job is to do my job. But part of my job is to tell you what to do. And so I'm going to delegate to you. If you want to look at it like I'm giving you work to do, that's fine. Because if you work for me, that's just how it is, right? We could say it a little more nicely, but at the end of the day, this is what I need you to do, and you're going to go do it. If you don't go do it, then we're going to have a problem, right? As I've watched the federal government go through all the crap they're going through, I've seen this train coming for a long time. I mean, a lot of my peers will tell you that there was a long time in the service, in particular, that it was almost like pulling teeth to get people to do their job. Then, oh, by the way, there's all this extra layers of bureaucratic nonsense that comes into the game that no one should have to do, that we still had to do. It was all a distraction, and it was exhausting to everybody. And you shouldn't have to be over here trying to argue with everybody about getting certain things done. It's on the reverse. I'm at school now with a bunch of high school students who every day are all coming into the office asking what they can do. Here's the other good news: I've seen that at all my organizations throughout my career. Now, it took time to get there. It took average, I would say, 2 to 2.5 years at every organization to fix the culture. And it just, you need people to leave, you need people to come in, you need fresh energy, fresh opportunity. You've got to get rid of some people that just don't want to change. And then ultimately, you're going to start to get the right people in the right place to do the right things. That's what's going to happen for all of us here eventually, very soon. And if that's not happening in your organization, I would start with looking at your delegation. Are you not able to trust the people you're delegating in? Are you not able to trust your team? These are all questions that we're going to talk about today, and I want you to think about this as we go through this topic. Ultimately, why are we really doing it? Number one, get the job done. That's true. Like, number one, we're there to get a job done. There's no way everyone's getting a paycheck to do the job. So the boss, the leader, the manager, the whoever you are, you figure out the best way to get the job done, hopefully in consensus with your people, hopefully in coordination and collaboration with your team. But ultimately, this is what needs to be done. Delegate it out, and then manage that to getting them all the way across the finish line. And hopefully everybody's happy with what they did, and they're looking forward to the next opportunity. And when you do that, you're going to empower them. That's my number two reason for wanting to do delegation. It's going to empower your people, right? It's going to increase productivity, and it's going to free you to focus on the things that really matter, right? If you are busy managing all these challenges that are really not at the level that you're supposed to be at, and you've got sub managers, assistant managers, team leaders, project coordinators, whoever they are, delegate that down to give yourself decision-making space. That was one thing that we used to always focus on when I was pick the job, right? Whether I was on the USS Ashland as the CMC, whether I was on the George Washington as the DC Senior Chief, Mass Chief, whether I was over the 7th Fleet staff, listening to everybody there talk and figuring out how to best support them, Naval Base Guam. Like, it was always about give the boss decision-making space, push the decisions down to the lowest level so that we understood which decisions needed to bubble up to the top, and then give him the best recommendations possible so that when it came to him or her, it was, boss, here's the problem, here's the solutions, here's the recommendations, what do you think? And they could make a very good decision. And it didn't take up a lot of time. This is ultimately what good delegation can do for you and your organization, especially when people own it at their levels. That's huge, right? And you have to think about this because you don't get to control your leadership style. You ever heard that before? My leadership style is I'm an authoritarian, or I believe in followership, or I'm a servant leader, or whatever it is. You do not get to choose that. Your followers choose that. So they could sit there and say, well, this guy thinks he's coming across as the most charismatic, inspiring person, but we hate him because he just tells us the truth, and we don't want to hear the truth. Okay, well, what do you want to hear? Well, I don't want to hear anything. Well, that's not going to work then. Okay, but you don't get to control that. You do not. So you'll go crazy if, as a leader, you're always trying to work on being in a certain box or a certain communication style. How about this? Be authentic, come to work, expect everyone else to do the same, and then hold them accountable and watch the magic happen, because it will happen. I promise you. And by you delegating, you're going to be able to be opened up to look at other things that are going to deserve your attention, and the aperture is going to be crazy. Also, you have to understand that the more opportunities you give to your people to maybe not meet your expectations, the more opportunities you get for them to become stronger. And so they can learn what happens when they've got to deal with that. If I had never failed as a senior chief, for example, when I was on board the George Washington, as a D-Seaman, if I had never had these hard times there that were like some of the scariest of my career, both personally and professionally, I would have never been prepared to one day be given a commanding officer advice on quickly, because it was almost emergency and we had got to get our heads together. I had to go through those experiences, right? If you just protect your people from making those decisions, you're never going to develop the leaders that you're going to need in your organization. And that's really what you want, right? You really want a bunch of leaders on your team that choose to follow you, or that choose to be a part of your organization. If all you have is just a bunch of followers sitting around collecting a paycheck, you might be the federal government, right? You might be the federal government, which is just a bunch of people, unfortunately, that it looks like. You ever gone to a federal government office on a military installation, and it's like 10 people staring at you, and you're just hoping somebody gets up and calls you to the window, that they still got the COVID window up because they're worried about somebody coughing on them, so you can ask them to help you, and all they do is punch a little number in and send you to go sit down? I will tell you, that's not the energy I would like. That being said, I would walk into military offices, and those sailors would be much more willing to engage, much more willing to help. What's the difference there? Typically, it's the leadership. There's an 80-20 concept that's out there. I don't really like it, but I'll talk about it because I do think the theory is helpful. And here's the theory. The theory is 20% of the things that your efforts typically go to, right, will affect 80% of the overall result. So whatever you're going to do with that 20%, guard it strongly. And what it's kind of saying is you got 80% you can kind of dilly-dally around with. That's not going to really be the big deal. But you need to strategically look at 20% and make that 20% a priority. Okay, life's balance. I get it. You're never going to know for sure which 20%. But what they're trying to get across to us is make sure you are applying that 20% to those high value targets that you're the only one that can do it, and that needs to gain your attention, right? And then trust that trickle down effect is just going to be multiplying on the way down, or exponentially down the timeline to the end result. Now that's true. I mean, when you're driving a ship through the water, a big United States Navy ship. You can't just turn it on a dime. You just can't. Seamanship is an art form, right? I used to love watching these surface warfare officers on the bridge. Man, we had this one navigator on board the Ashland. She was so awesome. She could, at times, it almost looked like she couldn't even see over the I would say the steering wheel, but the dashboard almost of the bridge of the pilot house. But one time I got the chance to watch her drive the ship because we were having a hard time doing a man overboard, right? We were trying to certify our man overboard team. And what you'd have to do is they would throw Oscar off the side of the ship. The ship would have to essentially recognize there's a man in the water. So the watch has got to call it away properly. They're going to essentially tell us we got to hurry and get out of the way. So move the back of the ship away from where the body is at, where we think the person is, so we don't hurt them. And then we've got to spin it back around in almost a figure eight kind of a style and come back around. And we've got to land within a certain amount of feet of the person. And then we've got to get our boat in the water and go save them or whatever it is. And we were just having a hard time doing this. I mean, now our ship was not a destroyer. It wasn't, it was not a Cadillac of the ocean, right? It was not a Ferrari. It was not one of those Gucci DDGs. Oh no, I was on a Ford truck, right? We were a diesel engine, big ton. We puffed black smoke out of our diesels because we were supposed to. You could hear us just boom, 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 boom. And when we get to going, it just wasn't very classy. It wasn't very suave, right? And so we had done it a few times and we just kept missing the mark. And I mean, senior people were driving the boat and it was a big deal. And we just kept missing it. And it got to be dark. And the afloat training group was on board the ship and they were like, look, we really want to see you guys nail this because you guys are almost there. But you've got maybe a time or two in the morning. And if you don't get it, that's it. We're done. And so me, the captain, and the XO, we're all talking about it. And we're like, man, who do we think, who can do this that is that we have not given an opportunity to? And I think the XO brought up the Gator. The Gator is what they call the navigator. And she was this Lieutenant JG, Lieutenant. I'm not a very tall person. She's about my height. She's been in the Navy, active duty, probably about 4.5, 5. She's a second to her Divo, but she's the navigator, right? It's a very important job. And captain says, you think so? And XO's like, yeah, I think she can do it, right? Because she may have the abilities to drive the ship in a manner that other people were unfortunately struggling with doing it to get the job done. And so that we called her in, right? I love the idea. When I heard it, I loved it. I had no idea, but I love the idea of bringing in somebody young and giving them the opportunity to kick butt, take names. Like I thought that was the innovation that we needed, right? We've been going to the old heads and they just weren't doing it. It wasn't working for them. And so Gator comes in. And I remember Captain's like, Gator, we need to get this man overboard. And she's on the seamanship training team. She knows. She's like, sir, I know. And she knows. She's worried. The whole team cares. Our ship, our whole strategy was, no redos. That was like our whole strategy on board this ship. No redos. We didn't care if we aced it. We just wanted to pass it because we didn't have time on our schedule to do it again. And we were feeling the pressure. I mean, it was late at night. Everyone was tired and we were going to get up tomorrow morning before Reveille to do it again. And Captain says, Gator, could you do it? Do you think you could take the officer of the deck and you could drive the ship and get it done? And she says, if I remember correctly, she says, I don't know. Like, wow. Right. And Captain was like, Gator, I would like for you to try. And she was like, all right, I'll do it. Next morning, I'm up there on the bridge bright and early. Everyone's up there. It's freaking, you can feel the energy. It's cold. You can feel the energy. And I remember watching her take the deck. And I'm a former damage controlman. I was an engineer. I didn't spend a lot of time on the bridge coming up. I spent a lot of time in the engineering spaces, right? And we have our procedures and our protocols and our isms, if you will. But I had been watching the bridge watchstanders for, the entirety of my time as a CMC. I've been roving through like CIC and learning what that is like in contrast to like a damage control central or a main control or whatever it is. So I'd learned the bridge, I thought, right? Until she took the watch. I'm gonna tell you what, she took the watch in a way that I'd never felt like I'd seen somebody else ever take the watch. Like she took the watch like a freaking boss. I mean, just from the moment she basically said, on the pilot on the bridge, this is the navigator, I have the watch, belay all reports. And the way she went, just checking down every little thing until she was happy with what she got, what she had, and then she was in the driver's seat. And the way she took that watch, I mean, in my mind, number one, put on a clinic to me for how unwell we were in all of our other watch stations. Because holy crap, here she was standing a watch like, I mean, wow, right? That's so for me, I just saw, okay, that's how it's supposed to look. Okay, everybody else is in trouble because we need to fix that right now. That's number one. Number two, it directly affected every other watch stander on that bridge because every one of them had a little more pride in their watch station. I could feel it. I could feel it. And I remember we ran the first drill and she made that. I felt like our ship was creaking. Like it was like on that movie Down Periscope, where like the ship was starting to like cave in, like the submarine is caving in, and like the engineers are down there just hooping and hollering because I could imagine what it was like in the space. She drove it in such a way as I think we needed, and we almost got it the first time. Like she almost hit it the first time, and you can even tell the assessors from the afloat training group were like, okay, one more time, you guys are going to nail this. And sure enough, she did, right? Sure enough, she did. Just that one person who wasn't the biggest, wasn't the tallest, wasn't the strongest, wasn't any of those other things, the changed everything about that huge, phenomenal warship, right? And that's what delegation can do for you. It can change everything because when you can learn who are the people in your team that you can delegate to, and then you allow them to be great, and you support them in that, and you recognize them for that, and so many things are going to work for you, right? So that's just an example of delegation that I've seen, and it's one of my favorite stories to tell because she was just a phenomenal naval officer. I hope she's still serving. I don't want to put her out there, but Gator, you know who you are if you ever watch this. I still remember that day you took the watch, and wow, I was impressed. Okay, so when do you recognize the need to delegate, right? Because I always feel the need. But that's because I always believe in investing in my people and giving them leadership opportunities. I know I've been doing this for so long now. I mean, I've been leading people essentially for 28 years with both in the United States Navy, and even now I'm pretty much still with the United States Navy. Even though I'm with the Navy Junior ROTC program, I'm still Master Chief. I'm still wearing my khakis on Mondays. I'm still, wearing my polo shirts on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I'm out there doing PT with them on Thursdays and Fridays, and we're out there doing it like I was in the service. So I still definitely very much feel like I'm connected to the military, but also in a different way, right? And so my leadership is stay sharp because I'm still working with all these young, hungry leaders. And so for them, I have to teach them when to recognize and delegate. So number one, if you feel overwhelmed or exhausted, we probably need to look at why you're not delegating. If you're just feeling overwhelmed and you've taken on too much, or you feel like you've taken on too much, which again, I try not to let that happen to you. But if you're feeling like that in your journey, are you not sharing the load? If you look at any like pack animal, for example, like a horse or a mule or something along those lines, anyone will tell you want to distribute the weight across that animal. You don't want to just put the weight all on the top of the shoulders. No, you want to put the weight down on the side of the saddlebags. You want to put it in the back of the trailer, then distribute it across the trailer so that there's an evenly distributed weight source that's going to make it easier for you to carry the weight long term. We all win if we don't care who gets the credit. Share the weight. Let them help. Let them show you that they can help you, right? So if you're feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, we probably need to look at your delegation. You probably need to start delegating it. Man, if you're always on, right? If you just can't stop worrying about work, if you just can't figure out a way to unplug, uh, you probably need to do some delegating, right? If you're carrying, and look, you cannot delegate the responsibility. We all know that, right? At the end of the day, you're responsible to get something done. I'm not going to go tell the boss, well, I just failed to get it done because my people failed to get it done. That's a bad answer, in my personal opinion. You failed to man, because look, you're a leader. I love it. But once you delegate it down to other people, you do have a management responsibility. I would always get this question when I was in the service. Hey, Master Chief, what do you think is more important if I'm a new chief petty officer? Should they be a better manager or a better leader? Well, it's like asking me, should a damage controlman be a better damage controlman or a better sailor? No, I need you to be both. I need you to be both. You don't get to just pick one or the other. That's not the way life works. So if you want to be a good leader, like the best leader possible, you've got to have some management abilities. You've got to have the ability to manage your leaders and then give them what they need at the correct times. So once you delegate, and we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, because there is a finesse to it to keep them on the track, right? Bottlenecks. You ever felt like every decision had to come from you? If that's your policy, I'm sorry for you. That's gotta suck. You're never going to be able to take a day off work. You're never going to be able to not be there. Everybody is able to go down, period. Right? There's no such thing as a sacred cow. There's no such thing as a person who's not expendable, right? I could be on the ship as a command master chief, fall down, break my leg. Guess what? The ship's going to get underway and somebody else will be on the spot. Just how it goes. And if you don't have that level of understanding, that's a problem for your organization, because what happens if, God forbid, you're not able to be there, right? They've got to have, here comes the resiliency word, right? Which is the buzzword for right now. It's not about resiliency, about having organizational strength, right? They've got to have the organization, and they care about you, so they're not going to let you down. That's what I've seen. Somebody goes down, they can't make the mission. Everybody else typically rallies, and they do it, and they hope that you're proud of them when they come back. And that's what you want to grow in your team. So that's what I grow in my people still to this day. I got this. So here we go. State's coming up this weekend. And I've got cadets, unfortunately, not able to make it for a wide variety of reasons. Family birthdays, obligations, car crashes. Pick your poison. Every time they come in and tell me, oh, Master Chief, I can't go. Okay, thank you for telling me. I appreciate that, right? Because I know we're going to find a way to get through it. It's just how it is. We've built the depth in our bench so strongly that I've got people that can do everything, right? When I first got to the George Washington, I got there and I had almost no first-class petty officers. I was supposed to have like 9. I had like 3. I had no second-class petty officers. I was supposed to have like 11. I had about 3, right? I had no master chief. I was supposed to have master chief. It was just me. I had no senior chief, just me. I was a DC chief. And then my other chief that was there when I got there was leaving in less than a month, right? So I did not have the bench of leaders that were supposed to be there billeted, because that's just how it is in the Navy at times, especially overseas, right? You just don't always get the manning that the book says you're supposed to get. But what did I have? Was a lot of junior sailors. Oh man, I had so many, because that's what happens, right? They come out of basic training, they're fully qualified, they ship them overseas because, hey, they don't know how to fail an overseas screening yet, right? And so as a 7th Fleet sailor, I knew the game. I knew how that was. Most of my buddies that are over there, they'll tell you the same thing. First of all, you got to play the hand that you're dealt. Second of all, it's not about the team you think you're going to get. It's about the team that you got. Make it better. And so what did I do? I immediately went to working to build a team of junior sailors that could work in every shop. I didn't want you just to work in a repair locker shop, or work in the fixed system shop, or work in the fire main shop, or work in the HPLF shop. No. And 2 years later, what did I have? Probably a good 40 sailors out of about 70, a good 40 of them that could do anything. And I had lots of first classes, lots of second classes that I promoted from within, right? That's what you got to do. You cannot afford to just wait for hiring the right person. You've got to come up with a training plan to get them where they need to be. And if you recognize it's a red line, then you need to make that a very, 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 very important plan. Here's another one. Are you resistant to delegating? If you're resistant to delegating, you probably need to delegate. You probably need to delegate. You need to let yourself trust somebody else, man. If you're afraid to trust somebody else, that's a problem for you. That's going to limit your ability as a leader. That's it. If you cannot trust somebody else, you're never going to ever achieve your full potential as a leader. You've got to give the trust up. Now, does that mean you trust everyone the same? No. Of course, you got to use smart trust. And when they show you that you can't trust them, believe them. But find the next person that can be trusted and keep it moving. Don't just wait. And oh, by the way, again, look at what's happening right now in our world. Don't be afraid to let somebody go, right? You know what? I love nothing better than firing someone that shouldn't be on my team, period, right? If you do not deserve the opportunity to be a part of my team, good luck. No hard feelings. Peace out, right? Because the time you're going to waste trying to convince them to want to be good is probably not going to be time value added for the rest of your team. Instead, find that next person who wants the opportunity and give them the mentorship, give them the advice, and let's get them in the game. Plug them in, coach, right? Once you delegate tasks, oh man, be careful about bringing them back. Be careful about taking them back. If they don't go perfectly and you just, I'm going to do it myself. You know, what I typically tell my people, and I've been saying this for a long time, just get me to about 85 to 90% of the way there. And then once we come back together as a shared delegation strategy, we'll get it done, right? So typically I don't delegate things that I need them to do all without me, because at my level, it's typically a higher level. And so I'm just going to give you, here's what I need you to do, get the majority of the work done. And then I'll make sure that we pull it across the finish line together. But then I'm going to give you all that credit because everyone's going to know I was involved. I don't care about that, right? I care about you wanting to learn from that event. And now my people that I've worked with are now Command Master Chiefs in their own right at their own places, or they're in college right now doing great things. Or now my third year ROTC, literally I can just tell my cadets what I want to be done and watch them do it. It's freaking amazing. And people just kind of look at me and like, wow, that's so incredible. No, they've been trained. They were freshmen, now they're juniors. Wait till next year when they're seniors. It's going to be amazing. And they've got more potential in them than I would put to a lot of people that I served with, unfortunately, because those people were just they were conditioned by the wrong people. Let's just call it a spade, right? Anyway, moving on. Are you not fulfilled? Right? If you're not fulfilled, again, if you're only doing a job for the money, wrong reason to do the job. If you only take a leadership position because you want the title, wrong reason to do the thing. If you're not happy doing something, life's too short, man. Life's too short. Make a change. You know, I mean, what I love about delegation is I can watch people succeed and it can inspire me. And that inspiration makes me happy about what I'm doing. So, for example, when I was a base master chief, one of the worst companies to ever work for the United States Navy is the installations thing, right? The amount of bureaucrats are ridiculous. The bureaucracy is just mind-numbing. I did not like anything about it, but I loved my boss. I loved the operations. When COVID came through and we became this clean Liberty port for every Pacific Fleet vessel, or when the Theodore Roosevelt came in for COVID, which is another story I'll tell you someday, that was fun because we were operational and we had things to do. And oh, by the way, all the bureaucrats had to go home because they had COVID protocols, right? It wasn't nothing but military at work every day, right? The bureaucrats weren't really around because they couldn't go at the pace we were going. They were in our way. They were an obstacle that we had to get through. And so the best thing we could do is go home. Go home. Don't worry about us. We're fine. Right. And so and then I retired because I was no longer fulfilled at watching all of the stuff that goes unfortunately wrong at the highest levels of that organization. And as I'm watching everything now from the sidelines, I'm just grinning, man, because man, this needed to come. God, this needed to come. Thank God. Anyway, moving on. 7 steps to effectively delegate, right? Here we go. We're going to go over some of these. First of all, I want you to identify what you can actually delegate, right? Some things only you can do, right? Some things only you can do. So you can't delegate that. That's unfair. So don't even try. Now, like I said earlier, shared tasks, my favorite, right? Because I like to know that we're going to get there at the end with the result that I can stand behind. So I like to be around that part of it. But I like for people to do the majority of that work. So that way, when we get it across the finish line, I can just great, yay for them, because I'm already typically back on to the next thing. So I love tasks that I can share the load with them, and it's not all on them. And if somebody can do something better than me, oh my God, please do. Please do. If I'm not going to be the one, I'm not the fastest person in the room at all times. So if we're going to run a race, guess what? I'm going to delegate down who's running that race. I sit down with my cadets and we strategize for like what we're going to do at a competition. Guess what? I'm not doing any of those events. I'm not performing. They're the ones doing the performance. So yeah, I'm kind of the coach. I'm kind of the one who knows, but I'm also going to get their inputs, their feedback, make my recommendations, give them opportunities to show and tell and to show and improve, and then watch them put the job in, right? They got 3 things. Things only you can do, things someone else can do better than you, or areas that you can share. And that's 2/3 of that you can delegate. So just think about that. And again, remember, I learned this as a 3rd-class petty officer. I'm talking like 1999. You can delegate authority, right? So I can tell you, hey, go tell them that I said to get this done. And then go, hey, Master Chief said to get all this done, and they'll get it done, even though I'm not a fan of doing that, because if I've got to use someone else's rank, or if I've got to even remind you of my rank, then that's ineffective for me, right? So I typically, if that's happened to be done, I'd want to know that. But typically in my organizations, once they come out the door from my office and they say, hey, we've got to go do this, this, and that, it's implied that it's from higher headquarters or that it's from upper level of chain of command and not the damn exec, right? Which if I didn't tell you that story before, I'll tell you again another time. Next up is accountability. I can delegate accountability. You can delegate accountability. You can hold somebody accountable for not meeting your expectations. And I think you should, right? When I was a young chief, I used to be super proud of myself because nobody ever got in trouble working for me. Well, because the reality was I was covering it all up and I was taking it all myself, and I was a lot of risk. That was a lot of risk. And as a master chief, and now as an instructor, if I'm ever taking on a risk, I full well know what the hell I'm doing, right? And I'm okay taking on that risk, right? But if it's a young person, a young leader that's taking on a risk to cover things up, that's not going to work. You've got to hold somebody accountable because they might end up being the ones held accountable, and that's a problem, right? And so if you tell someone to get something done and they fail to meet your expectations, something's got to happen, right? If you tell your 5-year-old to go clean their bedroom and they don't, and you do nothing about it, point made, right? The one thing you can't delegate is responsibility. You just can't, right? If you don't get it done, it's a mission fail, right? Now, it depends on what level of a mission fail, but my advice is don't become an organization that becomes complacent in missing deadlines. That's a bad place to operate because you might get away with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, but what happens if somebody gets hurt? What happens if you miss ship's movement or you miss a major wicket because you became complacent? What I've learned is keep it way above the line so you don't have to worry about going below the line. Next thing up is, choose the right people. You have got to find the people that want the opportunity. You ever seen people whose body language just told you that they were hoping you didn't pick them for a job? Right? You could just tell by everything in their body. They're looking away. They're shrugging their shoulders. They do not want to be the person you give this responsibility to. Well, maybe they should be the one. That's number one. Number two, why do I have you on my team if you don't want the opportunity to do the work? Like, what the heck, right? But number three, I might give the opportunity to somebody else, but you're going to help them, right? And if you don't do a good job, I'm going to hold you accountable. And I got to start working to get you off my team, because if that's the energy you're bringing to work every day, you're probably not earning your paycheck, bro. You're probably not earning your paycheck. And I'm going to tell you that because just by your energy, by your posture, by your nonverbal communications to me, lets me know that you're not here for the right reasons. And if you don't bring that right level of energy to work every day, then why are you working here? Right? If you think it's worth the money, it's not. It's not, right? It's not. And I think that matters. Next up is you have to have, what are the objectives? What are the expectations? They need to understand that going into it, right? I need you to have it done by this time. I need you to make sure these certain things are done. And this is when I expect it to be done by. And when do you expect to be updated, right? They've got to have the resources, right? Oh my God. This is one of the worst things I hated when I was, on active duty, because you would get given all these things to get done, but you wouldn't have the parts or the tools or the materials, right? When I got older, I would start to plan with my petty officers. Okay, we've got this PMS tracker, which is our maintenance tracker. So we know we've got to get certain maintenance done when there's no aircraft on board this ship. We know we got to get certain maintenance done when we're not lit off and underway or steaming. We know we have to get certain maintenance done when we're going to be in certain configurations. And so if we're not planning for that, we're really not doing a good job of managing, leading our people. So leaders have got to have that long vision to help the managers understand all those outside, forces that are going to affect you. You've got to make sure that they've got the resources that they need. They've also got to have the training. Do they have the training to even do the job? Have you not trained them? If they're not, and here's the other one, they have a responsibility to communicate that if they don't know how to do it. That's 100%. Then that's in their job jar. If they get told to do something and they accept it and they don't know how to do it, that's a bad thing, right? And that's a loss of trust thing for me. Because if they would have said, "All right, Master, I want to do it, but I don't know how," okay, well, I will typically then factor that into my planning. Okay, they need training on how to do that. Okay, good news is they said something, which means they care enough about it that they'll probably listen at the training. And then they'll probably learn how to do it. And then maybe you pair them up with somebody who knows how to do it already. So that way, by the next time, they're better, right? Those people who just don't say nothing and think they're going to wing it, God, you don't need them. 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 You can't trust them. That's just put that out there. Okay. You got to have communication channels with them. What's the ways they're going to communicate with you? Are they going to check out with you every day? Are they going to do a report once a week? What you have to, communications should be always briefed in anything you're going to ever do. You always got to talk C2, right? Command and control. So how are we going to communicate all these different taskers? One of the ways I communicate is I keep on my desk a list of everything that I'm working every day. To this day, I keep that on my desk, everything I'm working on. And you'll see me come in the morning and I'll review it. And by the end of the day, I'll typically re-update it. And I will have communicated with people to get my status updates on things, typically using things like email, phone, message. Hey, come see me. Or I'll come find you. I'll go walk by the place you're getting the work done and just check on work. That's huge, right? In the Navy, they call chief petty officers deck plate leaders, right? And when I was a young buck, when I was a master, younger than I am now, 47 is not that old, but when I was younger, I used to say I'm a deck plate stomper, right? Like I wanted to be out there on the deck plates walking. You could hear me come in, and I wanted them to know that I was available, I was around, and I cared to know how things were going. But then you can't just stay there, right? Because then they're going to depend upon you too much. You got to go in, get the pulse, check on it, and then get out of there. Allow them to fail within okay, I'm a parent. I have 2 sons. I give my sons opportunities to fail within certain parameters, right? Because I want them to learn how to fail and then come back. Never is it ever going to be just a thing where you're always successful, period. right? And so I need my followers, my people, my team members to learn. If they don't meet my expectations, it's not the end of the world. And even if we don't meet someone else's expectations, I'll take the heat, especially if we didn't do it, if we did everything within our power. And oh, by the way, if we're ahead, if we're early, if it's not yet our due date, I've got time to go communicate with up chain of command. Sir, ma'am, here's my concerns. Here's what I'm doing about it. Here's what we're going to do next. Almost always will you find grace. Almost always, right? No one's dead. No one's hurt. Let's figure it out. That's it. And when they see you do that, they'll do that for you. It's huge, right? Celebrate the successes and give them feedback, timely feedback. Don't wait forever. Recognition quickly matters, and then feedback matters, especially if they do great. I mean, sometimes all they want to hear is "Good job, you're off work, get out of here, go team," right? And then give them a plug next time because they just want to go home because they put in a good day's work. And if the feedback is not always the best, sometimes you got to put that on the shelf too until later, right? Sometimes they're beat up already. They probably beat themselves up already about it, and unless it's critical, right? Let's talk about it later, right? And then you come back to when everybody's no longer emotional. 5 different levels of delegation. So number one is going to be somebody who's brand new to the organization. You've got to say exactly what they need to do. Matter of fact, what I typically do with them is I pair them up with a senior person that can help guide them. You know, in the service, it was a third class, second class petty officer, maybe a really squared away fireman, seaman, right? In my ROTC unit, it would typically be a sophomore, right? My sophomores, my second year cadets typically are able to teach a first year cadet almost everything I want them to do in the classroom. Like, honestly, that's how squared away our battalion has gotten, because they learn throughout their first school year pretty much everything I'm going to want them to do. So then if I ever put a junior over that, it's even that much more value added, right? Level 2, those are the people that are going to be able to go out and get me the information. Go out, find out what's wrong, get me more information, come back and give me all the facts, and then we'll go from there. But typically, they're not gonna do anything until after I get all the information, and then I can tell them what I want them to do, right? But at least they can go out and collect information on their own. Number 3, they're going to go out and give me the information. Then they're going to come back and they're going to recommend how we fix it, how we resolve the issue, right? Those are my favorites. Those are really my favorites because they can go up or down almost at whim, right? As long as they know the information to give me recommendations, huge. And it shows buy-in, and it shows they care, and it shows they're critically thinking on their own, and it shows they want to be a part of the conversation, right? Number 4, they're going to go out and make the decisions, and they're going to come back and tell me what they did, right? I love those because they're going to learn you. You're going to learn them. One of my favorite things about being an ROTC instructor, vice being in the service, my team was always changing. You know, you're typically at a location for 3 years, and no one's there with you the whole 3 years. So typically, everyone's coming in and out by the end of your 3 years, you will have had at least 3 different crews. Well, and at this high school that I'm at, I get the same kids essentially from 9th grade to 12th grade. So I will have had them for 4 years. So my juniors are already showing me that they already know, like they're pretty comfortable on things that I'm going to 100% just not even a problem for me. Good job. Or things that I'm going to want to know about. Right. That's huge to have had 4 years with them consecutively to build an organization. And, oh, by the way, we're doing that all the way down the grade check down, right? That's huge. And then level 5, the best, you've got a bunch of independent leaders that are just filling you in at however you do your meetings, right? I was watching the other day, the president was doing his first meeting with everybody on his cabinet, and just you had this whole team of just phenomenal people, right? These are all AJ squared away people, but I guarantee almost all of them are still having to communicate often because they're all still learning what are their parameters, what is their pulse points, how far can they go or not go, right? 3 years from now, they're gonna, not even that, because good organizations can get there quickly. Man, when you got good leaders that have trust and are not afraid to make a mistake because they know it's authentically a mistake. And what's the difference between a mistake and a and a planned bad choice, typically it's because you thought about it. That's my gut, right? A mistake is honestly you didn't see it coming. You got schwacked. Oh my gosh, we screwed up. All stop. Let's figure this out. But if you think that this is a bad idea and you don't say something and you still do it, you incurred risk on behalf of the boss that you didn't even give the boss an opportunity to talk about, right? That's not good, right? Or what if, even worse, you thought you can get away with it? That's not good. Period. Period. If you're doing things and you're worried about getting caught, right? Or man, we're gonna get away. Okay, just make sure you know what you're doing, dude. Because when you get caught, you might be just be able to stand on that business, right? That's it. And if you can own that, I got no problem with you. But these people that are out there making these bad choices and then start acting like they didn't know, nah, bro. You got paid way too much money to make that choice, right? And I would have no problem. I've done it even as a high school instructor. I've removed people from key leadership positions because they knew they were making a bad choice. It wasn't about the decision. It wasn't about this. It's typically never about the decision. It's typically about them taking the risk and them choosing to put us in that situation. That's what it's about. It's usually about the lie. That's what it's about, right? Okay, so for leaders, we all have unique challenges. We've all got our things to worry about. So I'm recapping now, wrapping this one up. A couple things again. Remember, delegate areas you're not the best at, right? I'm not the tallest person in the room. So if I've got people taller than me, I need to get stuff down from up high. Brother, can you please go pick that up? Can you please go grab that off the top shelf, right? Delegate the areas that you don't always need to put yourself in and let other people go get that credibility and that credit, right? If things are already going really well in your organization, delegate down to people. Let them do it if it's already going well. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let them go. And if they come back with an innovative idea that you didn't even see coming, who y'all? That's great. Awesome. That's impressive, right? If you want your people to do things in the future, start delegating it to them now. That's how they learn. Give them repetition. Give them muscle memory. If you know you've only got one person that can stand the conning watch, or if you've only got one person that can stand engineering officer of the watch, or if you're port and starboard, or if you've only got one person that can stand your sales floor or can operate your register, or did you hear about the guy, only one guy can open the bathroom in that damn park? Like, that's ridiculous. There's just no way I can believe that. That's just a lie, right? That was just a narrative spun by somebody, because there has got to be more than one person that can do something. And if you have that in your organization, don't let that be. That's bad. You're opening yourself up to risk that's unnecessary. And leaders should not let that happen, because it's not about you. It's about your team. You can't afford your team to fail because you failed to train everybody up, period, right? And if you've already delegated stuff, don't reverse delegate it, right? Overcome the fear. If you're afraid to delegate, I'm sorry, get over it. Do it, right? If you're a perfectionist, I don't want to hear it. I really don't want to hear it. I hate when I hear people say, well, I'm a perfectionist. I got to do it my way. Okay, then you're probably not very successful, because there's just no way you can get the amount of things done you got to get done perfectly, period, right? So that's a neurotic place to operate from, and I hope you're not there. And if you think don't come into the leadership arena if you think you're a perfectionist. It's a bad place to be. If you don't trust people, if you don't trust yourself, I mean, because that's really what it comes down to, right? You tell them, I don't trust people. Do you trust? Nah, you probably don't trust yourself, which is why you don't want to put your life, your livelihood possibly in jeopardy, or you don't trust the people you work for. Right? Maybe you don't trust them, and that's the reason you don't want to delegate. I can get on board with that. Then why do you work there? Get the heck out of there, man. I would not spend time, the majority of my waking hours, around people that I don't trust on purpose. Wouldn't do it. Life's too short. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. If you're operating in the place right now that you don't trust the people you either work for or work with, or that you have working underneath you, I would seriously consider doing something else with your time. if you're afraid of losing control, I get that. I get it. I really do. I get it. You can control that, right? You can control communication points. You can control touch points. You can control how much you delegate to them, how far you let them go. But start somewhere and start to give yourself some decision space so you can build time to work on other things. I promise you, the more you try to do yourself, the less you're able to get done at the level you're trying to be at. It's just how it is. If you're worried about being lazy, that's a good one. I've seen that a lot. People, they're worried that if they delegate everything down, people's going to say, well, they don't do anything. That's, if you want to feel that way and think that way, wow, that's, first of all, that's naive. But secondly, a lot of us work our butts off to get to certain levels in the organization where we get to be at the top of the food chain, to be the ones that are delegating things down so that we can be doing the things that we're doing to move the whole organization forward. If you ever want to get there, you got to put the work in. You don't just wake up one day and just do it. And if you're worried about what everybody thinks of you, again, this is not the job for you, because look, they even crucified Jesus. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's going to be judged by somebody that does not think that they're doing what they should be doing. You've got to get a thicker skin than that. And you've got to get over it. And if that's going to be what bothers you, then leadership is probably not the occupation for you. It's probably not the position for you. And who are you? Who are they anyway to tell you that? What have they done? Right? If I'm looking for affirmation, if I'm looking for confirmation, I'm looking for some sort of words that's going to give me some peace, I'm going to listen to the people that work for me that I trust, for sure, 100%. I'll also listen to my peers. I'll also listen to the people that I work for. But ultimately, you got to have that solidness in yourself to be able to handle that. And it's a hard thing for people. I've seen it. Right? And so just don't get wrapped around the axle on that. Focus on the bigger picture. And typically they're just having an emotional moment. Right? I had a buddy of mine. He's a senior chief named Scott Shaw. He's a warrant officer, retired now. Scott, if you ever watch this, Scott and Jan, man, I love you guys. Scott used to say, you only know if you're doing your job if you find your name written on the head wall. So the ships would call them heads. They go on those, I hate Senior Chief Shaw, or I hate Senior Chief Wise. They're such mean people. And that's how you would typically know, like, all right, I'm getting my job done, because when I've got an organization of 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, pick your number, not everyone's always going to like you. On the reverse, man, I still get emails to this day from people that tell me thank you, or messages to this day from people that tell, hey, 6 years ago, Master Chief, I don't remember you or not, but thank you. So that happens. It really does. If you're doing things for the right reasons and taking care of people, taking care of your team, and you're being consistent, trust me, the people that appreciate you will be so much more valuable to you and louder than those jerks that are just throwing shade because they're just they're immature, man. They don't even know what they're doing with their life. They'll figure it out someday. But again, I would fire them. Once you recognize who they are, let them go. Get them off your team. Just get rid of them. You don't need them. They're cancer, right? They're not good for your organization. And you cannot be afraid to say that. You cannot be afraid to call them out. And unfortunately, you got to get somebody else. But typically, there's somebody else ready to roll, right? And I have no problem. You know what, man? It's not even you. It's me. I'll take that. Sayonara. And when they're gone, typically nobody misses them. Typically nobody misses them because all the other drama comes out, right? Good luck to y'all out there. I really hope that this helps some of you. Man, delegation is scary. I know. Trust me, I get it. You got to do it. You got to grow leaders. Lead strong. Don't lead afraid. Be proud of who you are and what you stand for. I think that, it's a great time to be an American. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be a leader. Oh, my God, there's so much opportunity coming for you. Just step up, man. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics. My words are like physics and force that they can't stop. They just don't get it. I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know